Good to go. We're live.
Hell yeah! After some technical difficulties
Yeah,
and
sorry about
exposing all the passwords,
that. I can't believe that happened. So sorry.
we're back. It's been a while. Been a while since we've been live. I don't remember when we had the last one. I think it was the portfolio reviews. It's been a while for sure. Um, but we're back. This is happening. We actually were supposed to have this stream happen a little earlier.
Good to go. We're live.
Back last year actually.
Last year,
A
yeah.
year ago. But just a couple of things happened in the meantime, and we had to cancel and reschedule. So, but finally, we can have it. I actually can hear myself for some reason. It's probably echoing at someone's computer. But anyways, generally speaking, we have an amazing artist, Kirill Chepizhko.
Yeah, that's me. How's it going, guys?
Just,
I don't know how to pronounce my last
just
name,
a couple
so
things
let's not
happened
try
in
it.
the meantime. Yeah, just kind of, I'll do the same thing that I always do. I'll let you present yourself because I don't want to butcher whether it's your name or your credentials or anything like that.
Sure.
You know about yourself a little better than I do, so.
Okay. I am, well, my name is Kirill, and I am from Russia, but I currently live in San Francisco, California. I'm a concept artist. I've been a concept artist for the past 5 years, out of which the past like 2.5 or 3 years I've been working with AAA titles, and that's coincidentally the time that I have switched to pretty much fully 3D concept art. I used to do
Mhm.
2D, but now I have changed my tools into 3D and kind of trying to invent a new position there as a like 3D concept artist. I know there's not too many people out there, or there's not too many companies out there who are looking for particularly 3D concept artists, but I'm trying to make this happen.
Well, it will happen for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, it's already happening. So that could be an interesting topic to talk about. I think we've mentioned about evolution of concept art and expectations that are happening right now, and generally working for the industry. But I imagine this could be a good conversation, sort of to see your angle, like what do you see where the trends are,
hmm,
and how you feel it's going to change within the next couple of years. I actually wanted to start off something unrelated because you've mentioned you're from Russia. So I'm
yeah.
curious, are you here in US and on visa or already on green card? Like, what's your situation? If you don't want to share it, that's fine. I'm just
No,
curious because
it's
of the legal
uh,
point of view. Because well, we had a lot. We had quite a few people asking, like, what has to happen for me to get to United States, and like, what's the visa process? Like, I would want to work for company A, but I don't
mhm.
know what to do because I don't have a visa. So,
I can shed some light on it, but it's mostly not even speaking from my experience because my experience is sort of unique. And at this moment, I am legal and allowed to work in the U.S. and stuff like that.
mhm.
But for a long time, it was kind of in a limbo, uh, and
Right on.
uh, and I had to do freelance or work as an independent contractor for a long time, which is still allowed. But I came here 9 years ago.
Hmm.
I was initially just majoring in English without even, you know, diving into 3D at all. And then that was my point. Like I wanted to learn English and come here in
Oh, okay.
chasing the American dream, so to speak. And I pretty much, I can't say I made it, but I'm on the way because my dream was to uh, somehow apply English language to be able to find a job in the art industry anywhere, like in the entertainment industry, gaming or movies.
Hmm.
And so it took me about 5 or 6 years to figure out the documents issue, but it's still not even there. I'm still trying to solve this. But speaking from experience of other people who I know, they just um, they were they were making themselves known in the industry. They were getting out there on social media and building their portfolios, which eventually led to them doing freelance or working full time for bigger companies that are from US, and then some of them got transferred or got invited. It's a great legal way. It's probably the only good way that I know. I don't want
Right.
to tell people to go my way, but the right way to go is have a great portfolio and get hired by a company directly, and you will be on a work visa, and which will later hopefully a work visa or a talent visa, which will later allow you to, without breaking the law, to transfer the whole status into a green card. That's kind
Right.
of like a complicated topic to talk about. So it's I would rather everybody read that online
Yeah, I
to make
mean,
it clear. But that's just
we're not lawyers, obviously, so
yeah, just to point
everything
people into the right direction.
exactly everything that is being said here, it's take it with a grain of salt. I mean,
Yeah,
there are some terms that obviously are real, but we're talking about experiences, not how it really is. Or
it's
we're
not a
trying
how
to
to. Yeah.
yeah, it's not how to. It's more of like what we think it is, but you know, uh, in order to make it correct and be sure that you're on the right way, yeah, you have to talk with a lawyer. So you mentioned two kind of visas, and I'll just quickly elaborate. The first one, which is the worker visa, you've mentioned, is called H1B, which is basically, to my understanding and from what I've heard, it's a visa that is being assigned by the government to the companies that are operating in US, and they have a specific number of people that they can hire within a year, and there's only a window of time that they can do that because it's assigned and they have to use it. It's
Mhm.
almost like a packet that they get, and based on like how big the company is, that's how many visas they can distribute among workers. I think the requirement for the H-1B is a full 4-year MBA or something like that, or 3-year education plus a couple of years of experience working in a studio, the experience that you can prove that you have working full time for a studio. The second visa you've mentioned is called O1. It's called a talent visa. It's for extra. It's called for a visa for extraordinary alien workers or something like that. Which basically means that you have to be a badass. You have
Right.
to be really good at what you do, and you have to have a lot of experience already working on like really, really big projects, or have a lot of publications, or teach a lot. Like do a lot of those things that apply to your work and be generally recognizable everywhere in terms of like the art industry, right, or entertainment
And yeah,
industry.
all of those requirements are posted online as well on the official
Yeah,
government website, so you can check that out.
absolutely. Yeah, so I was lucky because I was invited to join Naughty Dog when when we already worked on a couple of games for Crytek. So
Mhm.
Crisis 1 was like a really big game, really recognizable. So that allowed me to sort of have a good starting point. But it required me to at least have those couple of years, like if I worked for Crytek for 2 years less than I did, I wouldn't probably be able to get that
Right.
visa. And I wouldn't even qualify for H1B because I have no uh, proper education. Like I don't have academic education at all. So there would be no way I could get that one going on. Uh, yeah, so in terms of legal, it's really hard. And as you said, it's portfolio, right? It's pretty much
Hmm.
applying to everything at this point. Your work, your portfolio is the most important asset that you will ever get. And if you don't have it, then there's no way you're gonna get anywhere. People, like you have to imagine, and you know this pretty well, right? Like you came here from what I understand to learn. So you were on the student visa or something like that, right?
Sort of. I was on a work and travel,
Oh, okay.
but I came here just so I can pretty much be present in the U.S.
Gotcha.
The learning of all the CJ stuff. It happened. It was a decision that was made later, after I moved. So I
Got
didn't
it.
even know
Got it.
how to approach that when I moved. But when I came here, that's when I started figuring this out. But like just to reiterate, I actually think that if you don't have a good experience already with a company, that's one of the requirements that I would say necessary to get either visas. Because if you're planning to move just fresh out of college and be picked up by a company, that's really, really hard. I don't know any examples like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And I know a couple of people that came here on student visas, but the problem with the student visa is it doesn't allow you to work. I think you can only work for a first couple of months or a year after
Hmm.
you're done with studying. But in order to study here in US, you have to have a lot of money. It's just
Yeah,
there's just no other
definitely.
way. Like they won't even, from what I understand, they won't even allow you to come in if you cannot secure your expenses for a few months ahead and
Yeah, one of the
tuition.
requirements is show bank statements that will say that you have that
Yeah,
much money.
exactly. So I wouldn't recommend to go that route because it's way more costly and what's the point at that point, right? Like
Right, yeah.
make any sense. So yeah, so I hope this is helpful. I mean, I know quite a few people were asking about it a few times and it's good to sort of mention it again. We've talked about it briefly before. Times are changing, and like I don't see there would be a specific reason to force yourself to move to US, especially that a lot of work now these days is being done online, you know. So
Hmm.
and it's much cheaper actually to do it online. Obviously, it's for game studios specifically, it's easier to work in-house, to have someone to work in-house because it just allows them to have a little more control over what you're doing and how you're taking feedback and how you're working with the team, especially when there's so many moving parts. But yeah, it's just so much of it is moving into freelance these days. I don't know. What's your experience on that? I'm curious.
Well, I
Is it a trend that you see? Like,
Yeah, and I totally agree with this trend, or you noticing this trend. Moreover, the desire to move into US to work for a big company, it sounds really like 2006, 2007. But in the recent years, starting 2010 and all the way up to like 16, I'm noticing that it's actually probably even better to work for a US company from outside of the US because there has been so much outsourcing and all this stuff happening, like with the value of the dollar and stuff.
yeah,
It's way you get more bang for the buck pretty much if you work for a big company. If the company wants you to work for them from outside the US, that's a blessing. uh, and I feel like people confuse the two things, like coming to the U.S. for for immigration and just coming to the U.S. to work for a big company. To work for a big company, you don't really have to come to the U.S. right now. And
yeah.
my experience so far has been that I've worked for major companies on big titles on freelance, and it has gotten me more work in freelance for more big companies. So I didn't really. There was only one case when I was in the office for a relatively big company. I can't even say it's big. It was for mobile games. I don't
Hmm.
even want to mention that. But For all others, like right now, I work for Bosky, which is a studio by Cliff Bleszinski,
Yeah.
who pretty much the creator of Gears of War. Um, he has his own studio now, and we're working on this title called Lawbreakers. So, and this is considered a AAA title, and I was able to get that work based, I guess. I was lucky, but pretty much based on my portfolio that I had at that time, like a year ago, and only because of that, not because I was. I don't think they even knew that I was in the U.S. They
Right.
didn't really care because they're in North Carolina and I'm in San Francisco, and I might as well be working for them from Moscow for all I care. So I noticed this trend that, and I worked for briefly. I worked for Ubisoft, who also didn't really care where I was located. They just liked a piece in my portfolio and said, like, could you do something like that for us? And it was a very short project, but I did it.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, and I had more companies do the same. So I don't really see the necessity right now to be wanting to work in the office unless it's something that you really, really want for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, if you get an offer to work for like a really big film or something that is really game changing, then it
Hmm.
makes sense. Just if you want to have like your own step forward in your own career and do something meaningful and do something that otherwise you wouldn't be able to do elsewhere, then yeah, it
Right.
makes absolutely sense to relocate just for that. Well, obviously depends like what do you want to do with your life. That's another question,
And
but
also companies, a lot of times the company wants you to relocate. It's like
yeah.
their requirement.
Absolutely. But one thing, yeah, I'm gonna agree 100%. If you just want to work, then it doesn't really matter where you are, because if your work is good enough, it's just gonna be good enough, and people will hire you no matter what, no matter where you are. But um, there's a lot of studios that will want to work with you in the studio, and that's fine. That's another type of job. One thing just to answer, because we're talking about visa and Frode, I hope I'm saying it correctly, FROD, was asking if what kind of visa you need to freelance in US, and the answer is simple: you need green card, and there's no other option. No other visa will allow you to freelance. Whether it's H1B or O1, you're not allowed to freelance. You're only allowed to work for the company that gave you that visa. So
Hmm.
if you want to freelance on the US soil, then yeah, you gotta be on the green card. If you want to work for a US company, that doesn't really matter if you have a visa or not, because the visas only apply when you're on the US soil. So everything else really doesn't matter. But I agree, relocation for the purpose of living in the country versus relocation for purpose of work, those are two really separate things. And I guess a lot of people are confusing that because here's one thing that I've realized quickly when I came to US is if I lose my job, I have 2 weeks to get out, no matter how many commitments I've done so far. Imagine you're buying a car, like leasing a car, or like buying a car for credit for like 2 years lease or something like that. Imagine you're renting a house for a year, and like you're doing a lot of commitments, you're putting your kids in school and stuff like that, and then you get fired.
Yeah,
Oh man,
it's not fun. It's not fun just
it's
by
not
itself
fun.
getting fired, but in this
Yeah,
case, it's even worse.
and it's worse because you have 14 days to get out of the country because otherwise you're going to be banned for 10 years
Yep.
for entering the country. So that's something people don't realize and don't like a lot of people don't realize that this is the situation and get caught up. Like what the fuck? It's rough, it's rough. But anyway, so let's talk about that 3D stuff you're doing, that juicy, sweet, freaking Fusion 360 modeling. Like what the hell? No, I know what you're doing there. I'm using Fusion 360 myself. It's such a fucking wonderful software.
Hmm.
But I wanted to talk with you about something that I've been mentioning a couple of times myself, and And I think it's a really important subject that there's quite a lot of artists that still ignore it, whether it's for a novelty of how awesome painting is, or how awesome traditional or digital art is, and seeing those great images when you go on ArtStation, you might think like, I don't really need to do anything but painting. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts about it, because I have mine and I've been expressing them quite a
Hmm.
few times already, but I'm sure you're gonna have something interesting to say about that too.
You mean just painting? Like what I think about
No,
painting?
no, I'm thinking about generally like
Over painting?
3D, applying 3D, or like how important, in your opinion, learning 3D is, and where do you see the trend of where do you see where it's going? Like, what do you think industry is going, which direction? Whether it's going to stay with digital painting for a while, or you feel like 3D is actually starting to dominate, or because I have my thoughts and my opinions, and
Hmm.
I just wanted to hear yours.
Sure. Well, what I think is the 3D component has only been popular for a little bit, like for just a couple of years probably. And for a long time, too many people have been stressing that you cannot you cannot overpaint, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, until I think it became obvious that everybody is doing it, but it's actually a good thing because if we're only talking about concept art and not illustration, uh, it's the right thing to do. A lot of people confuse just pure art with concept art, and
Mhm.
the point there is to get something out real as fast as possible using any means necessary, and the client doesn't really care what you're using as long as it looks good. So
Yeah.
there's no cheating in concept art, as that's my opinion. And so I think that using 3D is absolutely necessary. Not too many people will agree, and it's it's just at this point in time in the industry when the requirements are way, way higher, and the expectations that the client sets in terms of level of detail and the the delivery and the speed of executing the concept it's all like tripled, or if not quadrupled, over the past couple of years.
Oh yeah.
Everybody wants it just tomorrow. Everybody wants it yesterday. So painting or is not always, the fastest way. It might be, but for something really complex, like really detailed mechs or detailed pieces of machinery, stuff like that. And I can only speak for hard surface because in organic it's like a different story. Um, but yeah, everybody wants it real fast. So I think 3D, not only it's not going anywhere, it's actually slowly replacing the regular concept art, and I'm okay with that. And I'm actually the one who will say that, yeah, I want to have this as a separate position in the company. I want this to sound like I'm a 3D concept artist. I do this
Right,
only
right.
in 3D, and don't expect me to have. You can expect a 3D model from me, some geometry, but don't expect from me an unwrapped sub-D model, with all the textures, because I am still a concept artist, the same concept artist that you used to hire 5 years ago. I'm just getting better, and I'm giving you a model now that you can retopologize or
Yeah.
whatever. But please hire somebody else to do it. And this has become a bit of an issue lately. So, companies want you to do everything now. But I just
You
want to
really have that
stress,
situations?
yeah, yeah.
I haven't been asked for that ever.
Well, I
And
guess that's why
majority of my
I'm,
concepts are 3D these days.
uh-huh.
So that's kind of interesting to hear. I guess it's maybe is it more in video games? Is that a request that would
Um,
happen in video games mostly, or I'm
no,
curious.
actually, I was, getting into movies a little bit, or trying to,
Okay.
and that didn't happen. Basically because of this, because what happens, and I cannot drop it, but what happened is, um, they saw my concept art, and it looks 3D, and it looks all textured and very nice and super clean, and like all the hard edges and stuff, and um, and they say, "Oh, can you then do a like fully production ready model for us?" So I can't. I'm sorry. I only do concept art. So I mean, for me, the only way around it would be what learning how to do a production model.
Yeah, I mean that's totally different beast though.
Yeah, it will take
Yeah.
me some time for sure.
Is that something you want to do? I'm
N-
curious, you know.
No, actually, well, see, there's a generation of concept artists like, I don't want to put myself in the same line, but I'll have to right now. Like me and Vitaly Bulgarov and you, just working as a concept artist in 3D and not wanting to do anything else, because
I
I'm
kind of
good
do
at
want to draw
coming
though.
up with stuff. Yeah, well, yeah, drawing is one
I
thing,
agree.
but you never want to get into production because you haven't been doing that, and
Yeah.
it's not your cup of tea.
I mean, hey, ask my friend Ash Thorpe, who just took my class, and now he's just blasting those DAS 3D images
Uh-huh.
every fucking day. So, like,
Well,
dude,
there's
oh my
always
God, I'm posting those images all the time. I'm actually getting text from him, 5 a.m. This is gonna be a savage beast mode, and I like every night, hey, look, and it's just like, God damn it.
nice.
I'm trying to sleep. No, it's awesome. It's moving definitely that direction, and I 100% agree with you. 3D is going to replace concept art. I guess the only sort of last bastion of the actual concepting, where and again I'm speaking was what I think is going to happen in the next couple of years. I'm not even sure because I might be totally wrong. I might be talking out of my ass, obviously. So, but when I look at how it's progressing, so okay, so back in 2007 or actually 2006, less than a decade ago, right? There
Hmm.
was no ZBrush, right? And now it's
They were just starting, I guess.
yeah, it was. I think it was like this 2.5D
Uh-huh.
application, this weird sort of hybrid that they've created, right? But it
Right.
wasn't anything like it is right now, like at all. Um, and like look what it is now. Like wow, like how
It's
how
crazy,
how
yeah.
far it is. Or even Fusion 360. How old is this software? Like 2 years at at
At
at,
most.
at most, right?
Hmm.
And for first couple of months or for almost first year, it wasn't even near to what it is right now. Like because I
Right, yeah.
I see the updates for almost a year now, and the Fusion 360 I've started learning a year ago or almost a year ago versus the Fusion 360 now,
Hmm.
dude, it's so different. Like there's so many more tools and how it just keep progressing and what they've been adding and making it easier and easier to learn and everything. It's just like it's amazing how quickly tools are progressing. Look at JAMA and 3D code. Like,
Hmm.
would you ever imagine you can do something that looks like matte painting, and you do it in 3D code in only one program with a little
Yeah,
bit
no,
of
that's crazy. And
slingshot
I
and
took that class on Learn Squared. So
JAMA is I call him JAMA the Gray, JAMA the White, JAMA of
yeah,
Oz, because he's a magician. So
he is definitely, because there's only you can only do
he's a
that by
great dude.
magic.
Yeah. No, JAMA is great. He's freaking amazing. But 3D is something that is already here. In films, in most cases, you are actually expected to use 3D. I only know I could I could only name a handful of illustrators that work in a union that
Mhm.
still don't know how to use 3D. Just handful, like on the fingers of my both hands, and there's not going to be more than that. Out of every single illustrator that works for film. And I'm talking about people that actually work like regularly. They get like job offers all the time, right?
Mhm.
Because there's obviously illustrators that are not working constantly. They're, shifting from games between games and film. In games, it's still more, um, it's still sort of in the limbo. Like some studios will require 3D or will want to prefer 3D, while others will not, So there are obviously differences, and it's much easier to sort of keep doing what you're doing, keep painting, um, and work for video games. But
Mhm.
it's slowly changing. I mean, I can see it myself, and I remember when I joined Naughty Dog. I don't work there anymore, but I know all the guys that still work there. My buddies, Aaron and Eitan and Nick and John.
Mhm.
All of them are using 3D now for quite a lot, So yeah, so 3D is moving in, and it's here to stay, and it's just like it's a question of whether you want to learn it and start making progress, or
Before it's
you
too
just want to
late,
be, yeah, before it's too late.
because you're gonna be
I,
behind the curve for sure.
maybe it's not exactly same situation because obviously, and I'm talking about rigging or UVs, for instance, right?
Uh-huh.
Or even like when you look at visual effects, rotoscoping, stuff like rotoscoping, right? For instance, like right now, uh, I guess there are still rotoscoping jobs, but if they are there, they are not that well paid. Most of that is outsourced to India and China, to like those studios that have like hundreds of artists that only do rotoscoping, and
Mhm.
they do it like really cheap. Like I'm talking like really cheap. And just look at like those new softwares, like I don't remember the name, like Rapid, I think it's Rapid or something like that. I can't remember exactly the name. It's somewhere in the back of my head, but it's basically a one-click topology software.
Really? I need to know what it's
Yeah,
called.
well, it's it's basing. Let's put it this way. Let's say you have a scan of a head, right? Like you're
Uh-huh.
scanning someone's head. You're doing a scan. So you have like a really high poly scan, right?
Mhm.
And what it's going to do, and let's say you have a clean topology model, like super squeaky clean, like it has
Mhm.
all quads, perfect for video games or film production, whatever, right? And it's just perfect. And all it does, it's mapping that perfect topology on that scan,
Mhm.
and it's basically conforming around it. And it's because the algorithm is so well written, it's conforming in a way that you don't need to do retopology on the model anymore, as long as you have a good topology model that you can
That's
sort of
insane.
convert it to, which is like really insane. Like that's something that haven't been in existence for quite a while. I'm even looking at rendering software. I remember 5 years ago doing realistic renders was a hell of a challenge. Like the
Yeah.
only I guess V-Ray was doing that, but V-Ray had like gazillions of options that you had to understand how to use in order to make something that making something that looks nice in V-Ray maybe wasn't hard, but it would render forever because optimizing settings was super important in V-Ray. Now
Still
it's
is.
now V-Ray is just silly easy. Like just almost they have this idiot-proof one-click settings.
They do. Actually, I tried using them, and it's not that bad. It's still better than me trying to, fuck around with the actual settings.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
one
So
clicks are easier. I had to use it a couple of times already, and I don't usually render in V-Ray, but now it's getting a little interesting because it's a little easier.
yeah, I mean
I'm at the
Corona, right? Corona has
yeah,
like almost no settings at all. It's just like
right.
open it up and press render. It's
It,
like,
it has
oh,
two settings, render and not render, and
yeah,
that's it.
pretty much.
But
Um,
it's still great. I actually like the result from Corona a lot.
oh yeah, it looks beautiful. I mean, it's missing a couple of features that would be nice, like lens effects, but you can do that in Photoshop, like in post, right? It's not
Hmm.
like an absolute necessary thing. Um, but it's an unbiased render. It's very affordable. It's actually free for commercial use if you use it with Cinema 4D, and um, and I think they have like a trial version for 45 days. So even um, if you don't like, they actually have alpha version, which is maybe less stable than the released version, which you
Hmm.
can take and use for free for commercial work. Like that's just
Interesting.
insane. And it's a one-click render that looks beautiful. Like if you don't believe me, go to Corona render site and look at the renders they are making. Like those crazy Russians, man.
Right. They mostly use it
Making
in
the
architecture.
Yeah, exactly. But
Don't feel realistic.
you have to be really seasoned in understanding how renders work in order to realize that this is an actual render, not a photo. So
Right. Yeah.
it's really crazy.
Most of them look like photos.
Yeah, exactly. So cool, man. Let's get into some questions. I guess there was quite a few
Sure.
in the meantime. So
Yeah. Yeah, the first question for you, Kirill. Is that how you pronounce it? How do you pronounce your name?
You can say Kirill.
Kirill? Alright.
Uh-huh.
The first one says, would you choose Fusion 360 over Moto with booleans?
Um, I haven't really checked out Moto that closely, but um, it's a weird question because Fusion and Moto are two completely different tools, mostly because Fusion is not polygon-based modeling at all. So it's not as simple as saying, "Oh, I'll just choose that and use it." It's more of, say, what are you required to use in the production pipeline? Or, what's the end result that you're trying to achieve? So I am using Fusion as a concept artist, and I'm saying that it's a perfect tool for a concept artist because I'm not required, you know, to do anything else. And then if the question is about Booleans, like, am I using Fusion only because of Booleans? Well, no, not really, but sort of yes, because Booleans are super impressive here. Like you can take pretty much any shape and subtract it or add it to any shape. But it's more than that. It's because Fusion is CAD, or to use a proper term, is solid body modeling. It's all parametric. Um, it's I really like to compare it to rasterized graphics versus vector graphics. When vector is all it's like a formula, it's a spline, and that's the same side as Fusion, and rasterized is polygons, very limited. While here it's pretty much unlimited. So I wouldn't choose Mono with Booleans over Fusion, just because me as a concept artist, I think this is a perfect tool.
yeah, I think so. When you work in Fusion, I tried both. I tried actually Fusion in Moto. It's funny because it's called the same. So it's
Right.
called Fusion 360 or F360. I tried both, but I tried Moto Booleans or Fusion in Moto quite a while ago, like almost at its inception, and it was really buggy to me. Like it was crushing a lot, and that's like on even a really nice machine. I don't know how it is right now. The whole workflow is much more complicated because it's connecting nodes together. It's not just a matter of like you're doing here. You're creating like a box or something, and then
Hmm.
you press one button and it cuts through. And you can create a complicated shape, press one button and cuts through, right? Or adds through.
Yeah, it's
There's a lot of
because of
things you can
speed.
do. It's way, way faster workflow. Whereas in Fusion, in Modo, you actually have to connect in nodes, and it's getting heavier and heavier. In parametrics, when you work in parametrics, it's really you have to be really doing like a really crazy models to get it to a point where it's unworkable, you know? Um, I don't know about hardware requirements though. What's the hardware you're using for your work? I'm curious.
For Fusion, oh, I skipped one here. For Fusion, there are pretty much no hardware requirements uh, because it's cloud-based and it's kind of like working in the browser. It's
Hmm.
not using a GPU. It's not GPU accelerated or anything. It's very there's probably some minimum requirements, but everybody has that, so it will
Right.
work. And it's kind of good and bad at the same time because I'm sitting on a really, I would say I love this machine. I'm sitting on a badass 48 core machine with 64 gigs of RAM, and I'm not really utilizing it for Fusion.
Right.
If I could use hardware acceleration, it would, and I have like a semi decent graphics card. It would be a lot better because sometimes when you're working with really heavy stuff, when I get my models or scenes into thousands of bodies, I have to start using assemblies and like get into all the tricks for it not to freeze, because obviously
Hmm.
everything has a limit.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
I don't even want to open that model right now. It's the model of a. I'll show you a render. It's a model of a rover. Um, where is it? That I had to use components only because it's been getting so high in detail inside, like all the chassis
Sick.
assembly. It was like
Yeah.
all separate bodies. And here's a flat render. But so
It's
for
all
something like
Fusion, right?
that, yeah, it's all Fusion, all assembled inside Fusion, all done inside Fusion, and it has like all the little details with that gun, and
Yeah.
it's getting too heavy for sure. But
Yeah.
you
I
can
I've
get away
noticed
with a
that when you
lot.
once you start adding a lot of elements, it's getting really slow at some point, but yeah, the entry point is really low for sure.
I actually have a example. I would say that anywhere after 200 bodies, you should consider using components. It will start to lag about after 200 bodies, like 2 to 400 regardless. Just getting heavy for the scene to rotate. But then really cool workaround for this is just using ZBrush, because you can export those components. Say you're working on a really super heavily detailed mech, you just export those components one by one and assemble them in ZBrush, and that's what I've been doing for the whole 2 years that I'm using Fusion, and it definitely works.
Yeah.
The next question for you says, what is the main job you do nowadays? And it says, sorry if this was repeated already.
Well, I'm a 3D artist, 3D concept artist. So I work for Bosky. I do have a day job though, which is just IT. But for the art side, I'm a 3D concept artist, and I do little gigs here and there. And I'm gonna plug this because I'm looking for a permanent job right now, and I've applied to a couple of companies. I'm just waiting for answers, but both of them are actually in Canada.
Oh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's interesting. They do exist. Let me see. No, one of them exists here in the U.S., but they don't have the positions. But they do have the positions in Canada, and I've been doing freelance for so long that I kind of started to miss the office environment.
Hmm.
I'm an office guy.
Right. I'm quite opposite.
Really?
Yeah, I prefer
What's the
working from my
benefit
own studio.
in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I can sit in my underwear.
Sure. Well, which is happening right now?
Yeah, I'm actually without it. Nah. So well, the main benefit when you work from home, just to be all serious, is because I've did quite a fair amount of both, and and obviously, so the big benefit of working from a studio, let's maybe start with this, is working with friends and seeing them every day. And if you have people that you really love working with, then it's a blessing, you know?
Mhm.
The problem is if you don't have those kind of people with you. If
Obviously,
the if you have people at a studio that you don't care about or you actually hate, you know? Like imagine you work on a project and or you're getting called in for a show, and then there's a bunch of people that like there's no connection whatsoever.
yeah. Well, no, that
Or
nobody
imagine,
misses.
or maybe there's like a person that is like a really an asshole, and like I don't want to deal with that anymore. So that's like, and you're stuck with it, you know? So it could be a blessing or it could be a curse. So, and that's how I see it. But the greatest thing is just like you learn so much because you work with people, and again, it can be a blessing or a nightmare. If you have a really prolific people that push you in quality, then it's awesome because then you're gonna be way better over time, right?
Yeah, and actually,
Whereas,
sorry for interrupting. I just
no,
wanted to
yeah,
say
go
that
ahead.
I noticed that your skill usually goes up when you work in the studio because you learn from people right next to you. While at
Yeah.
home, you do learn by yourself and you do learn with the tutorials, but somehow you're forced to learn and to up your skill.
Yeah, there's no one pushing you either, like you don't see a quality that someone else can bring to the table, and then you compare it to yours and like, damn, I better step up my game.
Hmm.
Um, and and that could be one thing. What's awesome about working from home though, you make your own time, you know.
It's
You
true.
just you just I gonna start my day at 8 and finish at 5. Well, you can do that. Yeah, or I can start my day at 12. Or maybe I'm not gonna start my day until 6.
Yeah,
It's all up to
it's
you. So all depends on like how you organize your own day and how you make things work. So that's a big benefit, big benefit. And you don't have distractions. If you know how to control yourself in terms of not spending half of your day on Facebook because you
mhm.
can, because no one is controlling you. If you know how to control yourself, then you have no distractions. There's no office noise. There are no random people coming over like, "Oh, what you doing? Can I see what you're doing, man?" You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
no,
you're
I know
gonna
what you
get
mean.
those random people that are just like really annoying, and you want to avoid that, especially when you're focused and you want to get to work, and then someone calling you in the meeting like, "Fuck, I was in my mojo, and now I'm just disrupt. Distractions can kill your productivity. I've noticed this. It's just so annoying. I've noticed it so many times. You know, like I'm gonna tell you a funny story. I was recording um, video for Learn Squared. Like I was recording new stuff for Learn Squared just recently, and um, and the moment I started recording, I had like literally freaking 10 phone calls. People trying to call me, ask me, like whatever that was, right? I was so frustrated, so I just turned off my phone. That was like a lesson. Okay, from now on, I'm turning off my phone whenever I'm getting into something important. Um, and imagine like when you don't have that option to turn off a phone because you cannot
Right.
build a wall in the office around yourself, so that's like the biggest thing, I guess.
No, no, I totally agree, and it's just obviously I only miss the office setting, which is really cool, and where you learn a lot and you have a lot of friends and blah blah blah. But nobody misses the bad experiences.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I kind of want to try, and also when you go to the office, you still get to keep your freelance. So most of the time,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
the time is allowing it.
exactly.
All right. Next
Next
question
question
says,
says,
is it just me or are tools advancing so fast that we don't need to focus on clean meshes anymore? And are you able to focus on, we're able to focus on speed and iteration? instead?
Um, well, I don't know because the correct answer is no, because in games and movies you still everybody cares about meshes, unfortunately, and everybody cares about how clean they are and stuff. It's only in this new concept art setting that nobody really cares about it, because in concept art the goal is different. So
Yeah.
in production, it's still all about how clean the topology is and the poly count and everything. So you
Yeah,
can't really
I'm gonna
compare.
add to that. The only part of the movies that may not care about how clean your meshes are is when you actually work in Fusion 360 or any other CAD software, because that's what a lot of set designers are actually using these days, you know. Like
Hmm.
Rhino. Rhino is spitting out the same file formats as Fusion 360 because it's, yeah, as you said, um, solid surface parametric modeling
Hmm.
software, right?
Hmm.
And that's what a lot of designers, set designers will work in because they have to create the sets that they're building. Uh, they, then they have to be constructed, and it just has to be precise, like extremely precise. You cannot use ZBrush for that; it's not gonna fucking happen. So they have to use software that allows them to for that ultimate super precision, right? And
Hmm.
parametric software is perfect for that, especially like not only sets, but like if you have set designers, because set designers also build stuff like vehicles, like help building vehicles, because
Hmm.
those are parts of the set too. So when you as a concept artist can create something in Fusion and send it over, and then can clean it up a little bit, because obviously you're not caring about distances or if something is intersecting or not. Um, but they can take it and clean it up for you. Like, there's already a good base for them to start with. Maybe replace some parts, build them again, but it gives them like a good understanding what's your thinking process behind it. They don't have to decipher the 2D image and try to figure out like what exactly did he mean here, because in 2D image you can fake so many things. In 3D you cannot fake anything. It is what it is as you model it. So
Right, and just the easier answer would be it's 3D print ready as well.
yeah,
So
exactly.
you can just you can make a whole prop. If you cannot say, if the production or if the set designer cannot find it anywhere or whatever, or it doesn't exist in the world, you can just 3D print it or CNC it, because Fusion is CNC ready as well.
Yeah.
Uh, it's extremely easy. So see, like for games, Fusion is something that you have to adjust and like use with caution. But apparently, as you say, for movies, there's more freedom
Yeah, I'm talking about
for.
like set design where it's not literally built or it's actually both, because you can actually build a weapon inside Fusion and have it milled from the file that you've built. And I
Hmm.
had it happen with my files already, and it's like it feels awesome. I'm telling you, like
I.
seeing it in real, like when you get set photos and you see a gun that you just modeled and sent out. Like, wow,
Mhm.
that's awesome. It looks exactly like my concept, like one to one. Like even the scratches are the same. It's just like, yeah, hell yeah.
Well,
Um,
I will have to experience that.
but then when you work for VFX studios, I guess it's a different story because visual effects will have little different requirements too. So.
Hmm.
All right, the
All right, the
next
next
question
question.
says,
So
he
he
also
also
said,
said,
thank you, Maciej, for doing these. I'm studying industrial design, and these art cafe series kind of changed the way I think.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I saw that. I'm glad that, it's helpful. So,
Next
next
question
question
says, I
says,
want
I
to
want to
start
start
doing
doing
concept in
concept in
3D.
3D.
What are
What are
3D
3D
programs?
programs?
What are the
What are the
best
best
ones
ones
to
to
use for
use for
this?
this?
And it
And it
says
says
maybe you
maybe
can
you can
say
say
about
about
some
some
advantage
advantage
or the
or the
advantages for
advantages
each
for each
3D
3D
program.
program.
Well, if I can answer that, I would say that. you need to know what you're going for in terms of hard surface or organic, because I feel this separation is necessary. Um, but if it's organic, I would say ZBrush is the best software for concept and for production in terms of organic. But if you're going for hard surface, you can still do ZBrush, but the Fusion 360 would be my go-to choice for hard surface. Other than that, you can honestly use whatever the hell you like. Like you can use like look at Jama, he's using a 3D coat, and he gets away with it. And you can use Blender, you can use I don't know 3D Max. I don't know why nobody mentions 3D Max anymore, but 3D Max or Maya, all of those
I
tools are
love
great.
3ds Max. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's old school. It feels like a horse that is slowly dying, but just because it's old school, it actually works. All those fancy features that you might be willing to have that always crash your actual file. You don't get that a lot. I don't get that many crashes, if ever, from
But
from
it's also
3ds Max.
reliable to learn that because you know that you're gonna get a job with 3D Max.
Yeah, I mean it's just Max and Maya are standard in the industry.
Hmm.
So
Which is unfortunately for Fusion is not yet, or
yeah,
but I hope it will be. But like right now is not the time to only learn Fusion, I say, and
I
have
think the
something
biggest
else.
the biggest issue with Fusion and why it's not yet a standard is because it's cloud-based. That's the only one of the only reasons I think because it's a security concern,
Uh-huh.
especially like in film, it's a no.
Sure.
It's like you have to be really careful, like when you work in Fusion, because it's all in cloud. Like you can get out if someone decides to
You
hack.
can work offline, to be honest. Here's a little
Yeah,
bug
you
here.
can. Yeah,
The
but
only thing is you need to have an account anyway, so it's
yeah, of
it's not
course.
exactly all the way offline, but you can work offline. But then it's the same security issues as with everything else, I guess. Just,
Right on.
but yeah, I don't know if that answered the question though. But because for beginners, just ZBrush is definitely good for beginners in my opinion. There's it allows for different levels or different artists with different levels of skill to pick it up. And Fusion is also great for beginners for hard surface. And again, I'll take an opportunity to plug this in. Like I have a Gumroad tutorial for absolute basic, but then I also have a class that's coming out in a month with Mold 3D Academy, where I'm teaching like an 8 hour, or that's the total is like 8 week course. And if you want to pick that up, go right ahead. But it's being picked up a lot of like even you taught the a bit of Fusion, as I understand, in Learn Squared, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
it's a good time to start learning this right now before it's a requirement in the industry, because by then you will already be a master of that. So you'll be like first at the door.
yeah. I mean, there's another software called Moments of Inspiration 3D,
Hmm.
but it's like much smaller, much smaller software. It's still great. I love it. Actually,
It's super
Vitaly
powerful
is using
too,
it. It's super
more
powerful,
powerful
but
than Fusion in some places.
right. It's a little. The only reason I'm not using it compared to Fusion is, when you create surfaces, you have to sort of like start merging them together, otherwise they're not connected. And
Hmm.
that was the one thing that like every time you do it, there's an extra click, and you don't have that in Fusion. It's just so freaking easy. Oh my God, it's such an easy software to use. Like it just literally takes a day to learn,
Yep,
if
for the
if
UI
that.
for sure. Plus
Yeah.
maybe a couple of days to learn the logic behind solid body modeling, because it's
Yeah.
just a little different. It's not it's different from pushing polygons, But once you
Yeah,
do,
if you're not a 3D artist and you're just starting, it's gonna be super easy because you
mhm.
don't have a predicament of that, poly modeling behind.
Yep, because it actually gets in the way for a lot of people because they
Yeah.
start thinking in polygons and just they keep making mistakes. But yeah, it was actually the same thing for me in ZBrush, when I was just painting and I didn't know any 3D, and ZBrush was my first 3D program. It was very easy for me to learn because I
Yeah.
never knew how to push polygons, and ZBrush is still not pushing any polygons really. So in that respect, this is the two pieces of software that I know, and none of them are actual 3D.
Yeah.
It's weird.
All right, let's get one more question.
Alright, last question says, what do you guys think about Marvelous Designer?
Get it, learn it, end of story.
It's true. Even I know a little bit, and I didn't have a chance to use it anywhere in production or in games, but I know how to make a pair of panties.
It's already a um, industry standard for video games. Like a lot of game studios are using it as a default uh,
Wow.
tool for creating cloths. And I remember I remember when I talked with Jama, because Jama is the first person to learn new things.
Hmm.
I've learned a lot of things from him. Like, I've met him first time when we worked together for NPC for
Hmm.
Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was getting his files, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Because it's just blowing my mind. And I told him, Jama, get on the Marvel's Designer. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like a new software. I'm just learning this few new things. But I'm like, dude, it's gonna take you a couple of hours to learn, but you're not gonna regret it. I'm like, okay, fine. And then a day later, like, dude, what the fuck? Oh
Like
my
it's the
God, it's
best thing
amazing.
ever,
It's
right?
the best thing ever. It is. It's freaking amazing. It's super easy to learn, and damn, it's so powerful. It's so good. And it's
You
so easy.
you kind
It's
of
so
have to
easy.
know how to make clothing though, right?
Yeah, it's you don't even have to know. You just have to go online and see how they are done in real life. And
Right,
once
yeah.
you follow the blueprint, you can do exactly the same thing in Marvel's Designer. And guess what? It's gonna look amazing. It's gonna look exactly like it's supposed to. It's gonna simulate for itself. You don't have to touch ZBrush at all to get those wrinkles and anything. And it's just gonna be rad. I think they used it for gravity for those suits, but I
Oh,
might be
awesome.
wrong. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I might be, taking that knowledge out of my own ass. So
Okay.
cool. All right, let's wrap it up. I have to finish really really soon, and I guess that was a good ending question. Thanks for everyone for patience. We started a little later with
Yeah,
some technical issues.
that was my fault, guys. Sorry about that.
Ah, no worries. Um, and John is, he's trying to induce a new style of how we do those things, more guerrilla, from random places on Earth, so we get more different sounds and echoes and some flush toilets and shit like
I
that.
fixed
So
it all. I'm still learning how to use the YouTube thing and all that. But yeah,
yeah,
thanks for your
no
patience,
worries.
guys. Kirill,
Yeah, no worries. It's good,
nice
man.
meeting you, man.
Us,
Oh yeah,
likewise.
and Kirill,
Kirill.
I almost forgot about our guest. Hey man, thanks
Okay.
for doing this.
It was a pleasure. I enjoyed talking about my immigration. Thank you.
And sorry for pushing it. I know you were ready the last time, but I just couldn't do it. It's something happened, had to
Oh, no
deal with it.
worries.
So, anyways, thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. We always try to make those helpful, but I'll see you next time, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Alright, I have to end this now.